Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson. We're continuing our study of the Gospel of Matthew, and we're in chapter 6, and we're going to read the story about the anointing of Jesus by Mary of Bethany shortly before he observes the Passover with his apostles. And this is in Matthew chapter 26. We're going to read verses 6 through 13. This is a passage, an event that's also covered in in Mark's gospel and in John's gospel, not in Luke's gospel. Mark and John fill out our knowledge of what's about to take place at this event. Now, when Jesus was in Bethany at the home of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster vial of very costly perfume. She poured it upon his head as he reclined at table. But the disciples were indignant when they saw this and said, "What was the point of this waste? This perfume might have been sold for a high price and the money given to the poor." But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, "Why do you bother the woman? She's done a good deed to me. The poor you always have with you, but you do not always have me. When she poured this perfume upon my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. Truly I say to you, wherever this gospel is preached in the whole world, that what this woman has done shall also be spoken in memory of her." We know from John's and Mark's gospel that when she brought we know first of all from John's gospel, this is Mary of Bethany, and that the apostle who spoke up is Judas. We've met Mary and Martha already in the life of Jesus. We meet them in Luke 10 when he stays at their house. And we meet them in John chapter 11 when he raises their brother Lazarus from the dead right here in Bethany. This has just happened not long before this event. And so we know that. We also know that whenever the vial of nard was opened, we know that it was nard, which is a very costly perfume. It's a very costly perfume because it's made from this aromatic gum that is harvested from bushes at the foot of the Himalaya mountains. This has come from India, from what is present-day India and Pakistan, and it has been traded, probably through the Gulf of Oman, north into Palestine. It costs a year's wage. This little bit would cost a year's wage. How did she get that kind of money? I don't know. We're told that she broke the vial, the neck of the vial, so that the bottle could not be stoppered anymore. And we're also told that she anointed Jesus' head and his feet, and she wiped his feet with her hair, which is an act that is so shockingly intimate in public that it still is to this day. We reenacted this event in Vacation Bible School a few years back, and we had a newlywed husband and wife. We do Jesus and Martha of Bethany, because when we were planning this, I said, we're going to have to get a husband and wife. I'm not going to ask just some woman to wipe her hair on some other man's feet. And one of the ladies who was helping me plan VBS said, "No, you're going to have to get newlyweds because an old married woman's not going to do it." And it was shocking when we reenacted it, just the intimacy of it. I don't mean shocking in a bad way, but it was like we were intruding on a moment we shouldn't be intruding upon. And in our jaded culture, whenever just nakedness on television, when something intimate can just startle us in this way, we understand how startling it would have been then, and how they would have been dumbfounded and shocked and would have had a negative reaction. But Jesus knew what it meant. Mary of Bethany is one of the great heroes in all the Bible, and we think of her as being timid because she doesn't say much, but she's probably one of the 2 or 3 bravest people in terms of absolutely defying all human convention to be next to Jesus and to express what she knows about Jesus to Jesus. She's the one who sat at Jesus' feet, not her assertive sister Martha, to learn right alongside of the men. whenever she wasn't welcomed by either the men or the women to do so, but Jesus welcomed her there. And at this party, where everyone thinks Jesus is going to stride into town victorious and start ruling like David, there's one person, at least one person, who knows what's about to happen to him. And she lets him know that in this very public way. And that is exactly the way Jesus appreciates it. How important was it for him as a person to know that one other person knew what was about to happen, that one other person had been listening and appreciated what was about to take place? That's why Jesus says in Matthew's gospel, whenever you talk about the gospel, you have to tell the story. I don't think we tell it enough, because I don't think we appreciate the gospel and what Jesus actually had to go through to purchase our salvation for us. But Mary did, and she showed it. It's not surprising that the apostles would object and say, we could support the poor. How many people could we feed with this money? Because what did Jesus just say about the judgment day? I was hungry and you fed me. I was naked and you clothed me, sick and in prison and you visited me. I get it. And of course, Judas is the one who speaks up, and Judas is the one who's carrying the bag. And as John's gospel tells us, Judas, as the treasurer of the group, used to pilfer the money out of it for his own benefit. And so I'm sure this really stung when Jesus said this to him. Was this the last straw? I don't know. But he's about to betray Jesus, something we'll talk about when we're together next time. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.